When I got a full ride scholarship, my dad said, "Good. Now I can use your college fund on a real family vacation." He posted photos from the beach with the caption, "No dead weight this time." He didn't notice who commented underneath. I'm Gloria Young, 22 years old, and this is the story of how one comment from a stranger destroyed the image my father spent 8 years building, while I didn't have to lift a finger. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. To understand what happened, you need to understand my family, or rather, the family I stopped being part of when I was 14. My mother died when I was 12, ovarian cancer. She fought for 18 months, and I sat beside her hospital bed every day after school, reading her favorite books aloud until she couldn't stay awake anymore. 2 years after she passed, my father married Melissa, a woman he'd met at a real estate conference. She came with 2 children from her previous marriage, Brandon, who was 11 at the time, and Chloe, who was 8. I tried. God, I tried to make it work, but somewhere along the way I became invisible. In our living room, there's a wall of family photos, 23 frames, carefully arranged by Melissa in 2016. I counted them once, during a Thanksgiving, when no one noticed I'd left the dinner table early. Not a single photo of me exists on that wall after 2015, the year my father remarried. It wasn't dramatic. There was no announcement, no family meeting where they decided I didn't belong. I just faded. Birthday dinners became immediate family only, which somehow didn't include me. Christmas cards featured 4 smiling faces, never 5. When my father posted his family Sunday photos on Facebook, I was never tagged, never mentioned, never there. I didn't disappear all at once. I was erased slowly, pixel by pixel, until no one remembered I'd ever been in the frame. Over the past 4 years, my father posted 847 family photos on Facebook. I know because I counted during one particularly lonely night in my dorm room. I appear in exactly 3 of them, all large group shots where I'm standing at the edge, half cropped out. But I didn't know then that the numbers were about to matter in ways none of us expected. The money was supposed to be mine. When my mother died, she left behind a life insurance policy worth $45,000. The paperwork was clear. I found a copy years later in a box of her things my father had shoved into the garage. For Gloria's education, she'd written in a letter to her attorney, so she never has to depend on anyone. My father became the trustee. He called it Gloria's college fund whenever relatives asked, which made him sound responsible and caring. What he didn't mention was how that fund worked in practice. Brandon, my stepbrother, graduated high school with a 2.8 GPA and a vague interest in business. My father enrolled him at a private university in San Antonio. $38,000 per year, no scholarships, no financial aid. He needs the structure, my father explained at dinner once. Some kids just need more support. I graduated with a 3.94 GPA, a research position in the computer science department, and acceptance to the honors program at UT Austin. My father covered my tuition from the fund, and nothing else. The fund is for tuition, Gloria, not spending money. So I worked 20 hours a week at the university library, another 10 hours tutoring high school students in calculus. I ate ramen 4 nights a week and learned to stretch a dollar until it screamed. Last summer, I asked my father for $200 to buy textbooks for a machine learning course. He said the budget was tight. That same week, he bought Brandon a $2,199 MacBook Pro. For online classes, Melissa explained, as if that made it reasonable. I didn't argue. I never argued. I just found a PDF version of the textbook and highlighted passages on my 6-year-old laptop until 2 in the morning. I didn't know yet that the fund was about to serve a very different purpose. My father has 127,000 followers on Facebook. I know that sounds strange to lead with, but it matters. It matters because Richard Young isn't just a father. He's a brand. Family Man Richard, as his bio reads, complete with a sunset photo of him hugging Brandon and Chloe on some beach I was never invited to. He works as a senior manager at Pinnacle Realty Group, one of the largest real estate agencies in Austin. His Facebook isn't just personal, it's professional. Clients find him there. Colleagues comment on his posts. His carefully curated image of the devoted family man has helped him close deals worth millions. His most viral post, 14,000 likes, 2,300 shares, was a photo of him taking Brandon to a football game. The caption read, "Nothing beats quality time with my son. Raising good men, one game at a time. Hashtag proud dad, hashtag family first." I saw that post from my dorm room, eating cold leftover pizza I'd saved from a department meeting. I didn't comment. I never commented. Here's what I eventually realized. My father doesn't hate me. That would require him to feel something about me at all. I'm simply not useful to his narrative. I'm not photogenic enough, not enthusiastic enough, not enough to fit the aesthetic he's built. I don't generate engagement. I don't inspire comments about what a wonderful father he is. I'm bad content. On Facebook, my father is the perfect dad. In real life, I'm the daughter who doesn't exist. But on March 15th, I received an email that would change everything and force my father to see me whether he wanted to or not. March 15th, 7:23 a.m. I was working the early shift at the university library, shelving returns in the quiet hour before students started trickling in for their morning study sessions. My phone buzzed in my back pocket, an email notification I almost ignored. The sender line read, "Stanford Graduate Admissions." I stopped breathing. I'd applied for the Morrison Whitfield Fellowship 3 months earlier, more out of desperate hope than realistic expectation. The fellowship covered everything: tuition, living expenses, research funding, for a master's program in data science at Stanford. Total value $187,000 over 2 years. Only 12 recipients nationwide. Over 4,000 applicants. I opened the email with shaking hands. Dear Ms. Young, on behalf of the Morrison Whitfield Foundation and Stanford University, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as one of 12 recipients of the Morrison Whitfield Fellowship for the 2024-2025 academic year. I read it 3 times. Then I walked to the library bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and cried for 15 minutes. For the first time in 4 years, every sleepless night felt worth it. Every meal I'd skipped to afford textbooks. Every time I'd been called dead weight and swallowed my response. It all meant something. But one line in the email caught my attention more than the rest. Dr. Eleanor Whitfield, Foundation Chair, has personally reviewed your application and noted your exceptional research on predictive modeling for natural disaster response. She has expressed interest in meeting you during orientation week. I didn't know who Dr. Eleanor Whitfield was, not yet. I would learn soon enough, and so would my father. I called my father that afternoon. I don't know why. Hope, maybe. Some stubborn part of me that still believed good news might unlock something in him. Pride, affection, acknowledgement, anything. He picked up on the 4th ring. Gloria, what is it? Dad, I got in. The Stanford Fellowship. Full ride. They're paying for everything. Silence. 5 seconds. 10. Then. Good. I waited for more. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. Your mother would be so happy. Good, he repeated. That means I can finally use your college fund for something useful. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I've been planning a family trip to Maui for months, but the budget wasn't there. Now that you don't need the fund anymore. He paused, and I could hear Melissa saying something in the background. We can finally do it right. 5-star resort, ocean view suite. The works. We? Me, Melissa, Brandon, and Chloe. A real family vacation. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles went white. Am I invited? He sighed, the kind of sigh you give when someone asks an obvious question. Gloria, you've got your Stanford stuff to figure out. Applications, housing, whatever. Besides, this is a chance for us to bond as a family. A pause. A real family. A real family. He said it like I was a counterfeit. A rough draft someone forgot to delete. The money Mom left was for my education, I said quietly. And you're getting educated for free now. Problem solved. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I've got to go, he said. Melissa's making dinner reservations. The line went dead. 2 weeks later, he would post photos from that vacation with a caption that would end his career as he knew it. But I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that I wasn't family. March 20th. I drove to my father's house to pick up some documents I needed for Stanford's enrollment paperwork. My birth certificate, my mother's death certificate, tax forms. Melissa was waiting at the door. I heard about your scholarship. She didn't move to let me in. Congratulations. Thank you. But don't think it changes anything. I blinked. Changes what? Your place here. What place do I have here, Melissa? She smiled, thin, practiced. Exactly my point. I pushed past her into the foyer. I just need some documents from Dad's office. The money, she said to my back. You're upset about the vacation. I stopped, turned. That money was my mother's. She left it for me. Your mother is gone, Gloria. Your father makes the decisions now. She left it for my education. And you have a full scholarship, Melissa crossed her arms. What's the problem? The problem is that you're using my inheritance to take a vacation without me. We've already booked it. Her tone was matter-of-fact, like she was discussing the weather. 10 days in Maui, oceanfront suite at the Grand Waverly Resort, helicopter tour of the volcanoes, the whole package. How much? $38,000. I felt the number like a physical blow. $38,000, nearly my mother's entire life insurance payout, gone. Brandon's tuition costs the same, I said. Every year, for 4 years. Melissa's expression didn't change. Brandon needed support. You've always been self-sufficient. Self-sufficient. That was the word they used. Not neglected, not abandoned. Self-sufficient. I need those documents, I said. She stepped aside. They're in the filing cabinet. You know where. I walked past her without another word. But as I gathered my papers, I heard her call out, "Have fun at Stanford, Gloria. Try not to be so dramatic about everything." I found my father in his home office, scrolling through something on his phone. He didn't look up when I entered. "Dad, we need to talk about the fund." "There's nothing to talk about." "That money was supposed to be for my education. Mom specifically. And you're getting educated." He finally glanced at me, irritated. "For free. At Stanford. What's the issue?" "The issue is that you're spending my inheritance on a vacation that doesn't include me." He set his phone down, leaned back in his chair. "You want the truth, Gloria?" No, I didn't. But I nodded anyway. "Fine." His voice was cold, clinical. "You don't fit in. You never have. Every family trip, every holiday dinner, every photo, you make everyone uncomfortable. You're always in the corner, always quiet, always there, like furniture no one asked for." I couldn't speak. "You're dead weight, Gloria. That's the reality. And for once, I want to take my family somewhere nice without having to worry about you dragging the mood down." Dead weight. He said it like he'd been thinking it for years, like he'd been waiting for the right moment to finally let it out. Mom would never. Your mother isn't here. He picked up his phone again, dismissing me. "And I'm done pretending that keeping you around honors her memory. It doesn't. It just makes everything harder." I stood there for a long moment. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just looked at him, really looked, and saw a stranger wearing my father's face. "Okay," I said quietly. I turned and walked out. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. Not because I accepted what he said, but because I knew some things couldn't be changed with words. Maya Torres was waiting for me when I got back to our dorm room. She took one look at my face and said, "What did they do?" I told her everything. The phone call, Melissa at the door, My father's words in his office. Dead weight. I said it out loud for the first time, and it tasted like poison. Maya stared at me for a full 10 seconds before exploding. He called you what? She jumped off her bed. He called you dead weight? Because you got a Stanford fellowship? Maya, no, 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 hold on. She started pacing. Let me get this straight. You just achieved something that 99.7% of applicants couldn't achieve. Something that puts you in the top 12 data science students in the entire country. And your father's response was, "Great, now I can go to Maui without you?" When she put it like that, it sounded insane. Because it was insane. I'm used to it, I said quietly. Maya stopped pacing, looked at me with something between pity and fury. Gloria, that's the problem. You're so used to being treated like garbage that you don't even recognize it anymore. She was right. I knew she was right. This isn't normal, she continued. None of this is normal, and you need to stop pretending it is. I didn't have a response, so I just sat on my bed and stared at the wall. Maya pulled out her phone. Hey, did you know who created your fellowship? What? The Morrison Whitfield Fellowship. I just Googled it. She turned her screen toward me. Dr. Eleanor Whitfield. She ran the data science division at NASA for 10 years. She has 340,000 followers on LinkedIn. I looked at the photo. A silver-haired woman with sharp eyes and a kind smile. I had no idea how much that face would come to mean. The Stanford News article went live on March 20th. I found it while sitting alone in the library during my lunch break, eating a granola bar I'd bought from the vending machine because I couldn't afford the campus cafe. The headline read, 12 Morrison Whitfield Fellows announced, Meet the Future of Data Science. My photo was there, third from the left in the featured image. Below it, a paragraph I must have read 50 times. Gloria Young, whose research on machine learning applications for natural disaster prediction caught the attention of Foundation Chair Dr. Eleanor Whitfield, represents the next generation of data scientists committed to using technology for social good. Young's predictive models for flood response have already been cited in 3 peer-reviewed journals, an exceptional achievement for an undergraduate researcher. I stared at my own name, at the words exceptional achievement, at the fact that someone important, had noticed my work and thought it mattered. For the first time in years, I felt seen. I screenshot the article. My thumb hovered over my father's contact for a long moment. I could send it to him, show him that I wasn't dead weight, that strangers at Stanford and NASA saw value in me even if he couldn't. But I stopped. What would be the point? He wouldn't read it, and even if he did, he'd find some way to diminish it. Anyone can get quoted in a school newspaper. It's not like it's the real news. I saved the screenshot anyway, not for him, for me, because one day, I knew I might need proof that I was worth something, proof that existed outside my father's version of reality. I didn't know then that this article would become evidence in a very public trial, not in a courtroom, but in a comment section, March 28, 6 a.m. I stood at my dorm room window, watching the sun rise over Austin. 15 minutes away, my father's family was loading suitcases into an Uber bound for the airport. I knew because Brandon texted me. Sucks you can't come. But hey, more room in the suite, LOL. I didn't respond. I turned back to my laptop where my thesis draft waited. Chapter 3. Predictive Modeling for Hurricane Evacuation Routes. Due in 6 weeks. The cursor blinked at me, patient and indifferent. I thought about my mother. The last summer before she got sick, she took me to Galveston, just the 2 of us. We built sandcastles and ate too much ice cream and watched the waves until the sun went down. She held my hand on the beach and said something I've never forgotten. Remember, Gloria, your worth doesn't depend on whether someone sees you. You matter even when no one's looking. I wiped my eyes, opened my thesis document, started typing. Somewhere over the Pacific, my father was flying first class to Maui on my mother's money. and I was alone in a dorm room, working toward a future he'd never acknowledge. But buried in my Stanford email was a line I hadn't fully processed yet. Dr. Whitfield has expressed interest in meeting you personally during orientation week. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know why the founder of my fellowship would want to meet a random student from Texas. I would find out soon enough. Because in the next 10 days, my father would do something so publicly stupid that it would destroy everything he'd built. And I wouldn't have to lift a finger. The internet would do it for me. If you've made it this far, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been treated like you don't exist by your own family? Have you ever achieved something incredible only to have the people closest to you shrug it off? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if you want to know what happened next, trust me, you do. Hit that like button and keep watching. The best part is coming. The first photo appeared on March 29th. Maya showed me because I'd muted my father's Facebook years ago. She kept him followed for what she called enemy reconnaissance. The image showed my father, Melissa, Brandon, and Chloe standing in front of the Grand Waverly Resort. Palm trees, ocean, golden hour lighting. Everyone was smiling. The caption read, "Paradise found. So grateful for this beautiful family. Hat Maui magic. Family first." 1,847 likes. 203 comments. Maya scrolled through them for me, her voice dripping with disgust. Beautiful family. You guys are goals. Best dad ever. She looked up. Best dad ever. Are these people serious? I shrugged. They don't know. That's the problem, isn't it? They see what he shows them. She was right. To the outside world, Richard Young was a devoted father, a family man who prioritized quality time, a role model. They didn't see the daughter who wasn't in the photo. They didn't ask why there were only 4 people when he had 3 children. Look at this one, Maya said, pointing to a comment. Richard, you're such an inspiration. Your kids are so lucky to have you. I felt something twist in my chest, not anger, something older. Exhaustion, maybe. The tiredness that comes from being invisible for so long that you start to wonder if you're the problem. I can't look at this anymore, I said. Maya closed the app. Sorry, I wanted you to see what you're up against. I know what I'm up against. I've known for years. She put her hand on my shoulder. It's not fair, Gloria. No, I agreed. It's not. But I didn't know then that the worst was yet to come. 3 days later, my father would post something that would change everything. April 2nd, 3:47 p.m. Hawaii time. My father posted a photo album. 47 pictures from the trip. Beaches, sunsets, helicopter views of volcanic craters, fancy dinners, snorkeling adventures, the whole curated fantasy. But it was the caption that stopped my heart. Best vacation ever. No dead weight this time. Just pure family bliss. Finally got to enjoy a trip without anyone dragging us down. If you know, you know. Hashtag blessed family. Hashtag paradise. Found no negative energy. Maya called me at 6:15 p.m. Austin time. Her voice was shaking. Gloria, you need to see this, right now. I opened Facebook, found the post, read the caption, read it again. No dead weight this time. He didn't just think it. He didn't just say it to my face in his office. He wrote it, published it, broadcast it to 127,000 people. Finally got to enjoy a trip without anyone dragging us down. I was the dead weight. I was the one dragging them down. And now everyone knew it. The post already had 2,347 likes, 189 comments, all of them congratulating him on his beautiful vacation, his beautiful family, his beautiful life. Gloria? Maya's voice came through the phone. Are you okay? I wasn't okay. I was sitting in my dorm room, alone, staring at a screen that proved what I'd always suspected. My father didn't just neglect me. He was proud of it. He was bragging about it. I don't know what to do, I whispered. We could comment, we could. No. I shook my head even though she couldn't see me. I don't want drama. This isn't drama, Gloria. This is the truth. But I didn't respond. I didn't know that in less than 12 hours, the truth would find its own way out, delivered by someone my father never expected. I spent the next hour scrolling through the comments. I don't know why. Maybe I was hoping someone would ask the obvious question. Maybe I was looking for a single person who noticed something was wrong. No one did. So happy for you guys. You deserve this. Family goals. Richard, you're such a great dad. Your kids are so lucky. No dead weight equals no drama. Smart move. That last one had 43 likes. I recognized some of the names. Colleagues from Pinnacle Realty, neighbors from my father's subdivision, people from his church group, all of them praising him, all of them laughing along with his joke about dead weight. None of them knew the deadweight was a person. His daughter, a Stanford fellow, someone who existed. Maya sat beside me on the bed, watching me scroll. Say something. What's there to say? That this is messed up, that he's publicly humiliating you, that no one knows it's about me. I closed the laptop. To them, I'm just nothing, an unnamed problem that got solved. That's exactly why you should say something. I shook my head. What would that accomplish? He has 127,000 followers. I have 89. Who do you think they'd believe? Maya didn't have an answer. I sat in the dark for a long time after she went to sleep. I thought about my mother, about the money she'd left me, about all the ways I'd tried to earn my father's approval and failed. I didn't know that I didn't need to say anything. I didn't know that someone else was already reading that post. Someone with 340,000 followers and a very low tolerance for injustice. Someone who knew exactly who the deadweight was. I learned what happened next from Dr. Whitfield herself, months later over coffee in Palo Alto. She told me she had a habit of checking social media profiles connected to her fellowship recipients. Not surveillance exactly, more like due diligence. She wanted to understand the families her fellows came from, the support systems they had or didn't have. She found my father's Facebook through a mutual connection, a professor at UT Austin, who happened to be friends with both of them. I saw the vacation photos first, she told me. Beautiful resort. Happy family. And then I read the caption. She paused, stirring her coffee. No dead weight this time. I read those words and something clicked. I remembered your application essay, how you mentioned your mother's death, how you talked about feeling invisible in your own home, how you'd worked 2 jobs through college while maintaining a near-perfect GPA. She scrolled through my father's profile, saw the wall of family photos, noticed the same thing I'd noticed years ago. You weren't in any of them, she said. Not one photo after 2015, it was like you'd been erased. She opened the Stanford News article in another tab, looked at my photo, looked at my father's profile. I called my assistant and asked her to confirm. Richard Young of Austin, Texas, father of Gloria Young, Morrison Whitfield Fellow. It matched. I sat with it for about an hour, she told me. I don't usually involve myself in family matters. It's not my place. But, she smiled, a sharp, knowing smile. But I've spent 40 years watching brilliant young women be dismissed by small-minded men, and I decided I was too old and too accomplished to stay silent. That night, she opened Facebook and started typing. April 3rd, 8:22 a.m. California time. Dr. Eleanor Whitfield posted a comment on my father's vacation album. It was short, polite, devastating. Mr. Young, I couldn't help but notice your caption. I'm Dr. Eleanor Whitfield, founder of the Morrison Whitfield Fellowship at Stanford University. Your daughter Gloria was just selected as one of our 12 fellows this year, out of 4,080 applicants. Her research on disaster prediction modeling is exceptional and has already been cited in peer-reviewed journals. I'm curious, is she the dead weight you're referring to? If so, I'd love to understand your definition of that word. Best regards. Her profile picture showed her verified badge, her bio linked to her Stanford faculty page. Her credentials were impeccable. Former NASA director, foundation chair, advisor to 3 presidential administrations. There was no way to dismiss her as a random troll. No way to claim she was misinformed or jealous or didn't understand the situation. She knew exactly who I was. She knew exactly what my father had done. And she'd said it publicly, calmly, with the full weight of her reputation behind every word. Within 30 minutes, the comment had 847 likes. Within an hour, it had 234 replies. The replies weren't kind. Wait, his daughter got a Stanford fellowship and he called her dead weight? I just Googled Gloria Young Stanford. She's literally featured on their website. This man used his dead wife's money to vacation without his own daughter? I've bought 2 houses through Richard. Never again. The tide was turning. The perfect family man was being exposed. And I hadn't said a single word. I didn't even know it was happening yet. But I was about to find out. The comment section became a crime scene. People who had praised my father hours earlier were now deleting their comments in shame. Others were returning to retract their likes, their congratulations, their family goals, exclamations. New comments flooded in every minute. Family first? More like family -1. So the dead weight is a Stanford fellow and you're a real estate manager? Interesting. I'm sharing this everywhere. People need to see what good fathers really look like. At Pinnacle Realty Group, is this the kind of person you want representing your company? That last comment was the one that mattered most. The posts like count, which had peaked at 2,347, began dropping. Within 2 hours, it was down to 1,102. People were actively unliking it, something I didn't even know was possible at that scale. But the comment that made my stomach drop came from a name I recognized. Margaret Collins, regional director at Pinnacle Realty, my father's boss. Richard, we need to talk. Monday, my office. She didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. The screenshot of her comment spread faster than the original post. Someone created a thread. Real estate manager publicly humiliates Stanford-bound daughter, gets called out by NASA scientist, boss sees everything. It was shared 2,000 times in 3 hours. My father's carefully constructed image, 8 years of family man Richard, thousands of posts about love and gratitude and #blessed family, was collapsing in real time. And the person who'd built it was still on a beach in Maui, probably wondering why his phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Maya burst into our room at 9:47 a.m. Gloria! She was out of breath, holding her phone like it contained nuclear launch codes. Check Facebook, now! What? Just do it. I opened the app with shaking hands, navigated to my father's post. And there it was. Dr. Eleanor Whitfield's comment, 1,247 likes and climbing, hundreds of replies. A complete dismantling of everything my father had pretended to be. I read her words 3 times. Is she the deadweight you're referring to? She destroyed him, Maya whispered. With one question. One polite, devastating question. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me, the part that had spent years being invisible, felt something crack open. Validation, recognition, proof that I wasn't crazy, that the way I'd been treated wasn't normal. But another part of me felt the ground shifting. This wasn't private anymore. This was public, permanent, unsolvable. My phone started buzzing. Text messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Is this about you? What's going on with your dad? Gloria, are you okay? I didn't answer any of them. What do? I asked Maya. Nothing. She sat down beside me. You don't have to do anything. She did it for you. But the fallout is his problem. He created this. He published it. He chose to call you dead weight in front of 127,000 people. Maya grabbed my hand. You didn't do this, Gloria. He did. I stared at the screen, at Dr. Whitfield's profile picture, at the hundreds of strangers defending me. For the first time in my life, someone with power had stood up for me. And she hadn't asked for anything in return. My father's damage control was a masterclass in making things worse. At 11:30 a.m. Hawaii time, he finally saw the comment. His response appeared 20 minutes later. Dr. Whitfield, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Dead weight was just a joke about luggage. We always overpack. Gloria knows I love her. This was taken completely out of context. The internet did not believe him. A joke about luggage? You said no dead weight this time, implying there was dead weight before. If it was about suitcases, why mention finally enjoying a trip without anyone dragging us down? Nice try, Richard. We can all read. Luggage doesn't drag the mood down. People do. You were talking about your daughter. Within 15 minutes, his reply had more angry reactions than likes. He deleted it. That made things worse. He's deleting comments now. Screenshot everything. I got it before he deleted, sharing to my story. The cover-up is always worse than the crime, Richard. He tried to delete the original post. Too late. Hundreds of screenshots were already circulating. A local Facebook group called Austin Real Estate Watch, 45,000 members, shared the thread with a damning caption. This is Richard Young, senior manager at Pinnacle Realty Group. Is this how Pinnacle represents family values? The post was shared 400 times in an hour. Someone found the Stanford News article and posted it alongside the screenshot. Side by side, my father calling me dead weight and Stanford calling me exceptional. The contrast was devastating. My father stopped responding after that. His Facebook went silent. But the damage was done. You can't delete the internet and you can't unring a bell. He was about to learn that the hard way. The call came at 2:15 p.m. Austin time. I stared at my father's name on the screen for 3 rings before answering. Gloria. His voice was different, strained, almost desperate. We need to talk. About what? You know about what? That comment, the situation online. The situation you created? A pause. I heard him take a breath. I need you to post something. Something that clarifies this was a misunderstanding. Tell people it was an inside joke. Tell them we have a great relationship. I almost laughed. You want me to lie for you? I want you to help fix this. For the family. Which family? The real one? Or the one you take to Maui? Gloria. You called me dead weight, Dad, to my face in your office, and then you posted it online for 127,000 people to see. I didn't mean, you meant every word. You've meant it for years. The only difference is now everyone else knows. His voice hardened. If you don't help me fix this, there will be consequences. Consequences? I felt something cold settle in my chest. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you how things work. I'm your father. I've supported you for 22 years. You owe me. I owe you nothing. My voice was steady, calm. You used Mom's money for a vacation without me. You've excluded me from family photos for 8 years. You told me I make everyone uncomfortable. And now you want me to save your reputation? Silence. Fix it yourself, Dad. I'm done. I hung up. For the first time in my life, I ended the call first. I set the boundary. I chose myself. And I didn't feel guilty at all. The email arrived at 4:30 p.m. I saw the sender, E. Whitfield at Stanford, Edu, and my heart stopped. Dear Gloria, I hope you don't mind that I commented on your father's post. I realize it may have been presumptuous of me to involve myself in a family matter, And if I've overstepped, I sincerely apologize. But I want you to know why I did it. I've spent 40 years in academia and industry, watching brilliant young women be dismissed by people who should have championed them. I've seen too many talented minds doubt themselves because the people closest to them refuse to see their worth. When I read your application essay, I saw something remarkable. Not just intelligence, though you have that in abundance, but resilience. The kind of quiet strength that comes from surviving things you shouldn't have had to survive. Your achievements speak for themselves. A fellowship that 4,068 other applicants didn't receive. Research that's already being cited by your peers. A future that is entirely your own to build. Don't let anyone, family or otherwise, diminish what you've accomplished. If you ever need anything, my door is always open. I meant what I said in your acceptance letter. I'm looking forward to meeting you at orientation. Warmly, Eleanor. I read the email 3 times. By the third time I was crying. It was not sad tears, something else. Relief, maybe, or recognition. For years, I'd wondered if I was the problem, if my father was right, if I really was dead weight, too quiet, too awkward, too much trouble to love. And here was a woman I'd never met, a woman who'd run NASA's data science division, telling me I was worth defending. I typed my reply through blurred vision. Dr. Whitfield, thank you. Not just for the comment, but for seeing me when my own family chose not to. I won't let you down. If you've ever had someone, a teacher, a mentor, a stranger, stand up for you when your family wouldn't, I want to hear about it. Those people matter more than they know. Drop a comment below and tell me who believed in you when no one else did. And if this story is resonating with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. We're almost at the end, and trust me, you want to see how this plays out. April 7th, the Monday after the vacation. I learned what happened from Maya, who learned it from a friend who worked at Pinnacle Realty's front desk. My father walked into the office at 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes early, wearing his best suit. He thought he could get ahead of it, explain, spin, do what he did best. Margaret Collins was already waiting. The meeting lasted 47 minutes. When my father emerged, his face was gray. Here's what I pieced together later. Pinnacle Realty Group had a social media policy. It was in the employee handbook, page 34. Employees are expected to conduct themselves professionally on social media platforms, particularly when their employment is publicly visible. Conduct that damages the company's reputation may result in disciplinary action. My father had Pinnacle Realty Senior Manager in his Facebook bio. His post and the subsequent viral meltdown had been shared over 3,000 times. The company's customer service line had received 14 calls from clients asking if Pinnacle endorsed that kind of behavior. Margaret Collins didn't yell. She didn't need to. Effective immediately, you're being reassigned from senior manager to associate manager. You'll no longer supervise the residential team. Your salary will be adjusted accordingly. The numbers, from $127,000 per year to $97,790, a 23% pay cut. Additionally, he was required to complete a mandatory training course, Professional Conduct in Digital Spaces. 8 hours, on his own time. He tried to argue, he tried to explain, he tried to say it was a family matter, a private joke, a misunderstanding. Margaret's response was simple. Richard, you made it public. Now you deal with the public consequences. He walked out of that meeting a different man, and his problems were just beginning. The social fallout was slower but more thorough. Over the next week, my father lost 34,000 Facebook followers. His count dropped from 127,000 to 93,000 and kept falling. The Family Man Richard brand was hemorrhaging. 3 potential clients canceled home viewings. I know because one of them sent me a message on LinkedIn. Ms. Young, I was going to buy a house through your father's agency. After seeing what he posted about you, I've decided to take my business elsewhere. Congratulations on Stanford. You deserve better than him. I didn't respond, but I saved the message. The Parent Teacher Association at Brandon's high school asked my father to resign from the advisory board. A parent had shared the screenshot in their group chat, and the vote was unanimous. A local blog called Austin Family Watch published an article. Local real estate manager's viral post sparks conversation about deadweight children and blended family dynamics. They didn't name him directly, but everyone knew. The comments section was brutal. Melissa started getting questions too. Friends texting. Is that post about Richard's daughter? What's going on with your husband? She stopped responding to her group chats. And then, unexpectedly, a message from Brandon. Sis. One word. A word he hadn't used in 8 years. I didn't know it was that bad. I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't know if he meant it. I didn't know if anything would change. But it was the first time anyone in that house had acknowledged what happened to me. Maybe that was something. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, my father was learning a lesson he should have learned years ago. The internet never forgets, and neither do the people you've wronged. The apology call came on April 10th. My father's voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. Humble, almost. But I'd learned to listen for what was underneath. Gloria, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Have you? I was wrong. What I posted, what I said, it was wrong. I want to make things right. For a moment, I let myself hope. Maybe he'd finally understood. Maybe losing his job title and his followers had broken through whatever wall he'd built. How? I asked. I'm going to post a public apology. Tell everyone how proud I am of you, how much I love you, how the deadweight comment was a terrible mistake. That sounds like a start. But I need your help. There it was. If you could comment something supportive underneath, maybe tag Dr. Whitfield so she sees I've changed, it would really help repair the damage. I closed my eyes. You want me to help you repair your image? I want us to heal as a family. No, Dad. You want your followers back. You want your reputation back. You want to undo the consequences without actually changing anything. That's not... You haven't apologized to me, not really. You've apologized to the internet. You've apologized to your boss. But you haven't once said, Gloria, I'm sorry for how I treated you for the past 8 years. Silence. Because you're not sorry, I continued. You're embarrassed. There's a difference. Gloria, healing isn't a PR campaign, Dad, and I'm not a tool you can use to fix what you broke. I hung up. He didn't call back, and for the first time, I realized I didn't want him to. April 15th, a new email from Stanford. The subject line read, An Opportunity. Dear Gloria, I hope this message finds you well. I've been thinking about our upcoming orientation and your research interests, and I have a proposal. Each summer, I select 2 incoming fellows to join my research team as paid assistants before the academic year begins. It's an opportunity to get a head start on the program, build connections with faculty, and contribute to ongoing projects in climate modeling and disaster response. I would like to offer you one of those positions. The details, June 1st through August 15th, stipend of $4,500 per month, housing assistance available. You would work directly with my team on our hurricane prediction initiative, something I believe aligns perfectly with your undergraduate research. This is not a competitive application. I'm offering it to you directly because I believe in your potential. Please let me know if you're interested. Warmly, Eleanor. I read the email 4 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. $4,500 per month. Direct mentorship from one of the most respected data scientists in the country. A head start at Stanford before I'd even officially enrolled. Maya screamed when I told her. Do you understand what this is? She grabbed my shoulders. This is Dr. Eleanor Whitfield, former NASA director, personally recruiting you to her team, while your dad is taking a mandatory social media ethics course. Karma is real. I laughed. Actually laughed. Something I hadn't done in weeks. My father wanted a $38,000 vacation. He got a demotion and a training seminar. I wanted to be seen. I got Stanford, a fellowship, and a mentor who believed in me before we'd ever met. The universe has a sense of humor. April 20th. I wrote the email I should have written years ago. I addressed it to my father and Melissa, CC'd Maya as a witness, and spent 3 hours choosing every word. Dad and Melissa. I'm writing to establish some boundaries for our relationship going forward. I'm not asking for an apology. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking you to publicly acknowledge what happened. Those things won't undo 8 years of being treated as invisible, and I've stopped expecting them. What I am asking for is basic respect, and since that hasn't been freely given, I need to define what it looks like. 1. I will not attend family events where I am not treated as an equal member of the family. No more standing at the edge of photos. No more being excluded from conversations. No more being the person everyone pretends isn't there. 2. I will not participate in any effort to repair your public image. My achievements are not tools for your reputation management. 3. I will maintain minimal contact until I see evidence of genuine change. Not words, but actions. Not apologies for the internet, but apologies to me. I hope that one day we can have a healthy relationship. But that depends on you, not me. I've done everything I can. I've tried to earn your approval for 22 years. I'm done trying. If you want to be part of my life going forward, you'll need to show me you've changed. Until then, I wish you well. From a distance. Gloria. I hit send before I could second guess myself. My father never responded. Melissa replied with one word. Noted. It wasn't the closure I wanted, but it was the boundary I needed. And for the first time, I felt free. April 25th. Brandon called. Not a text. An actual phone call. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken on the phone since I'd left for college 4 years ago. Gloria? His voice was uncertain. Young somehow, despite being 19. Brandon, I wanted to talk, if that's okay. I sat down on my bed. I'm listening. I didn't know. He exhaled. I mean, I knew things weren't great between you and Dad, but I didn't know I didn't know he said those things to you, called you that. You never asked. I know. That's, that's on me. A pause. I just believed what Mom told me, that you were difficult, that you didn't want to be part of the family, that you chose to be distant. And now? Now I read Dr. Whitfield's comment, and I Googled you, and I saw the Stanford article. His voice cracked slightly. You're like, actually impressive, and I've been treating you like you don't exist. I didn't respond. I wasn't sure what to say. I'm not asking you to forgive me, he continued. I wanted you to know that I see it now, what they did, what I helped them do by not saying anything. What are you going to do about it? I unfollowed Dad on Facebook. A small laugh, embarrassed. I know that's nothing, but I don't want to be part of that anymore. The fake family stuff, the photos, the whole thing. It wasn't much, but it was something. Thank you for calling, Brandon. Can I call again sometime? Maybe we could actually, talk? I thought about it. About second chances. About whether people could really change. Yeah, I said finally. Maybe we could. June 1st. I stood in my dorm room, surrounded by cardboard boxes. 4 years of my life in Austin, packed into containers bound for California. On my desk sat the only photo I was bringing from home. My mother, holding me on a beach when I was 7. Her smile was wide, her eyes were bright. She had no idea she'd be gone in 5 years. I picked up the frame and looked at her face. "I did it, Mom," I whispered. "I got out." She told me once that my worth didn't depend on whether someone saw me, that I mattered even when no one was looking. She was right, but she would have also understood this. Sometimes being seen by the right person changes everything. Dr. Whitfield saw me, Stanford saw me, and slowly, I was learning to see myself. My phone buzzed. "Maya, I'm outside, ready when you are." I took one last look around the room. At the desk where I'd cried over my father's post. At the bed where I'd read Dr. Whitfield's email. At the window where I'd watched the sun rise on the day my family flew to Maui without me. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. Done waiting for my father to love me. Done trying to earn a place in a family that didn't want me. Done being the invisible daughter, the dead weight, the problem that needed solving. I had a fellowship, a mentor, a future, and I had myself, which it turned out was enough. I grabbed my bag, turned off the light, and walked out the door. California was waiting, and for the first time in my life, so was I. That's my story. If you've ever been called dead weight or burden or any word that made you feel like you didn't deserve to exist, I want you to remember something. Your worth isn't determined by people who refuse to see you. It's determined by what you build when you finally stop waiting for their approval. If this story helped you feel less alone, please like, subscribe, and check the description for more stories like this one. Thank you for being here with me. My name is Helena Patterson. I'm 34 years old. 3 weeks after I paid $80,000 to save my father's life, I watched him thank my brother on Facebook, a brother who never spent a single dime. 247 likes, 83 comments praising Marcus for being a real man. My brother replied with heart emojis, accepting every ounce of credit for my sacrifice. But that wasn't even the worst part. At my father's recovery party, in front of 40 guests, my mother announced that whatever I contributed came from my dead-end job anyway. She laughed. Some relatives laughed with her, and my brother, he just smiled behind his hand. She had no idea that the surgeon standing 3 feet behind her was about to change everything. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. To understand why that moment broke something inside me, I need to take you back to where it all began. Growing up in the Patterson household, I learned early that my place was somewhere near the margins. Last Thanksgiving, I drove 4 hours from Houston to my parents' home in Austin. The house smelled like roasted turkey and my mother's famous cornbread stuffing. Relatives filled every corner, aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. When I walked through the door, my mother was already mid-introduction with Aunt Patricia. "And this," Diane Patterson said, gesturing toward my brother with unmistakable pride, "is my son Marcus, CEO of his own tech startup." Marcus flashed his camera-ready smile. The relatives nodded approvingly. Then my mother noticed me standing there, coat still in hand. "Oh, and that's Helena." A vague wave in my direction. "She does something at a hospital." That was it. No title, no context, just something at a hospital. I took my seat at the dinner table, the chair nearest the kitchen door, as always. Marcus sat at my father's right hand, the place of honor. The thing is, I wasn't surprised. This had been the pattern my entire life. When I graduated with my MBA from Rice University, top 5% of my class, my parents didn't attend. Marcus had an important pitch meeting that day, and they couldn't possibly miss it. I crossed the stage alone, shook the dean's hand, and drove myself home. No photographs, no celebration dinner, just a text from my mother that evening. "Congrats, sweetie. Marcus's meeting went great. I stopped competing for their attention years ago. I told myself that my work spoke for itself, that the people who mattered could see my value, but I didn't expect them to erase me entirely. I just didn't realize that my silence could be weaponized against me. To understand my family, you need to understand Marcus. My brother is 4 years older than me. Tall, charming, the kind of man who walks into a room and somehow makes everyone feel like they've known him for years. He inherited our father's easy smile and our mother's talent for saying exactly what people want to hear. He's also failed at every business venture he's ever attempted. The first startup was a food delivery app, back when the market was already saturated. My parents invested $50,000, gone within 18 months. The second was a cryptocurrency trading platform, another 30,000 from their retirement savings. The platform crashed during a market dip. Marcus called it a learning experience. The third, some vague AI consulting venture, was still limping along, hemorrhaging money every month. In total, my parents had poured over $80,000 into Marcus's dreams, the same amount I would later spend to save my father's life. Funny how that number kept appearing. But here's what really got me. Every time Marcus failed, my mother had an excuse ready. "He's learning," she'd say. "Failure is the mother of success." Meanwhile, when I was 20 and asked to borrow $500 for textbooks, she told me I needed to learn self-reliance. Marcus lived in an apartment my parents paid for. I'd been covering my own rent since I was 22. I never hated my brother for any of this. How could I? He didn't create the rules, he just benefited from them. But I was tired, bone deep tired of being measured against someone who never had to measure up to anything. And then came January 15th, the phone call that changed everything. The call came at 7:23 in the morning. I was already at my desk, reviewing quarterly reports before my first meeting. When I saw Mom flash across my phone screen, my stomach tightened. Diane Patterson never called me, certainly not before noon. I answered on the second ring. "Helena." Her voice cracked. "It's your father. He collapsed this morning. They're saying it's his heart." The reports in front of me blurred. "Where is he?" "St. Luke's Medical Center. The ambulance just brought him. They're talking about emergency surgery. Triple bypass." "Helena, I don't understand what's happening." I was already grabbing my keys. "I'm on my way." The drive took 42 minutes. I spent every second of it on the phone with colleagues, using my professional network to get real information. By the time I pulled into the hospital parking lot, I knew the situation was critical. 3 blocked arteries, immediate surgery required. Without intervention, my father had hours, not days. I found my mother in the ICU waiting room, her face puffy and red. Marcus stood beside her, paler than I'd ever seen him. For one strange moment, they looked small to me, fragile, like children facing something they couldn't charm or negotiate their way through. "Helena." My mother reached for me, and I let her grip my arm. "Thank God you're here." Through the glass partition, I could see my father, Richard Patterson, the man who once fixed radios and told me I'd do great things, lying motionless under a web of tubes and monitors. His skin was gray. His chest barely rose with each breath. I didn't see the family that had overlooked me for 30 years. I just saw my father fighting for his life. The financial coordinator arrived 20 minutes later. She was a small woman with tired eyes and a clipboard full of bad news. She explained the situation in the careful, practiced tone of someone who'd delivered this speech 1,000 times. "Mr. Patterson's Medicare covers approximately 60% of the procedure costs," she said. "The remaining balance comes to $80,000. We'll need a deposit of $40,000 before surgery can proceed." The number hung in the air like a physical weight. My mother's hand flew to her chest. "80,000? But we don't have. I used our savings for." She didn't finish the sentence, but I knew. The Alaska cruise, the European river tour, Years of luxury travel funded by retirement accounts that were now empty. She turned to Marcus. Honey, your accounts. Marcus shook his head, his jaw tight. Everything's tied up in the company, Mom. Liquidity issues. I can maybe move some things around in a few weeks, but. A few weeks? My father didn't have a few weeks. He might not have a few hours. They turned to me. The shift was almost imperceptible, a slight rotation of their bodies, a change in the direction of their desperation. It was the first time in years they'd looked at me as someone who might actually matter. Helena, my mother's voice was thin. Do you have anything? I looked through the glass at my father, at the monitors beeping out his fragile heartbeat, at the team of nurses preparing him for a surgery that couldn't happen without payment. I'll handle it, I said quietly. Handle it? Helena, you can't possibly. Give me 30 minutes. I turned and walked toward the hallway, already reaching for my phone. I stepped into a quiet corner of the corridor, away from the chaos of the ICU. My fingers moved across the phone screen with practiced efficiency. Priority banking line. Personal account. The same motions I'd made 100 times for hospital budget transfers and capital expenditures. Good morning. First Texas Bank Priority Services. Helena Patterson. Account ending 7734. I need to initiate an immediate wire transfer. Certainly, Ms. Patterson. Amount and destination? $80,000, St. Luke's Medical Center, Patient Services. A brief pause. That's a significant transfer. I'll need to verify. Use my executive authentication code, Delta 77 Alpha. This needs to be completed in the next 15 minutes. Yes, ma'am. Processing now. Another pause. Chairman Patterson, would you like confirmation sent to your primary email? Yes. Thank you. I ended the call and stood there for a moment, watching the fluorescent lights flicker above me. I didn't notice Marcus standing at the end of the hallway until I turned around. He was watching me with a strange expression, something between confusion and suspicion. Had he heard the call? Had he caught the word chairman? If he had, he didn't say anything. He just nodded and looked away. I walked back to the waiting room. It's done, I said. The full amount. They should receive confirmation within 20 minutes. My mother stared at me. Done? 80,000? Helena, where did you— It's my money. That's all you need to know. Before she could ask more questions, a nurse appeared at the door. Family of Richard Patterson? He's being prepped for surgery now. We followed her down the hallway, and the questions stopped. For the moment, saving my father mattered more than understanding how I could afford to save him. 6 hours. That's how long we waited while surgeons rebuilt my father's heart. My mother spent the time alternating between prayer and pacing. She clutched her rosary beads until her knuckles turned white, murmuring the same phrases over and over. Marcus made phone calls in the hallway, something about investors and liquidity, always the business even in crisis. I sat perfectly still, watching the red light above the operating room door. Somewhere in those long hours, a memory surfaced unbidden. I was 12 years old, sitting on the garage floor while my father tinkered with an ancient radio he'd found at a yard sale. The thing was more rust than electronics, but he was determined to make it sing again. Hand me the small screwdriver, Helena. I passed it to him, watching his hands work with patient precision. When the static finally cleared and music crackled through the speakers, some old country song I didn't recognize, he turned to me with a grin that lit up his whole face. You see that, baby girl? You see what we did? You did it, Daddy. Nope. He shook his head firmly. We did it. You and me. And you know what? You're going to do big things someday, I can tell. It was the last time he'd said anything like that to me. After that, Marcus came home from college for the summer. Marcus needed attention. Marcus needed support. And somehow, I faded into the background. The operating room light turned off. Dr. Morrison emerged, pulling down his surgical mask. His expression gave nothing away. The surgery was successful, he said. Richard is stable. He'll need significant recovery time, but he should make a full recovery. My mother wept with relief. Marcus embraced her. I stood behind them, alone, and smiled. Recovery came slowly. My father spent 3 days in the ICU before moving to a regular room. During visiting hours, the space was never empty. My mother held vigil from morning until the nurses insisted she leave. Marcus appeared every afternoon with flowers, balloons, and his phone camera ready. I visited during the quiet hours, early mornings before work, late evenings when everyone else had gone home. It was easier that way. No competition for space. No explanations required. On the fourth night, I stopped by after a board dinner ran late. The hallways were dim, and the only sound was the soft beeping of monitors. Aunt Grace was sitting in the chair beside my father's bed. She looked up when I entered, and something in her expression made my chest tighten. "Helena." She rose and embraced me. "I was hoping to catch you alone. Is everything okay? Is Dad—" "He's fine, sleeping peacefully." She glanced toward the bed, then back at me. "I've been wanting to ask you something. That money for the surgery, did you really pay for all of it?" I nodded. $80,000. She shook her head slowly. "And Diane's been telling everyone that Marcus handled everything." "I know. Doesn't that bother you?" I considered the question. Of course it bothered me. But what would fighting accomplish? My father was alive. That was what mattered. "It's not the first time," I said finally. "It won't be the last." Aunt Grace took my hand. "I've watched your mother overlook you for years. I've never said anything, and I'm sorry for that. But Helena, you deserve to be seen." I squeezed her hand. "Thank you, Aunt Grace." But we both knew that seeing and changing were two very different things. 3 weeks later, I was in my office when the notification appeared. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I'd just finished chairing a hospital board meeting, and I was reviewing the minutes before my next appointment. My personal phone buzzed, a Facebook notification from my father's account. I almost ignored it. Richard Patterson rarely posted anything more exciting than fishing photos. But something made me tap the screen. The post had a photo attached. Marcus sitting beside my father's hospital bed, grinning at the camera. Below it, my father had written, "After my recent heart attack, I was saved by the grace of God and my son, Marcus Patterson. He handled everything. The bills, the arrangements, all of it. I wouldn't be here without him. Marcus, you are the pride of this family. Thank you for saving my life. Grateful heart. My son, my hero." 247 likes, 83 comments. I scrolled through them slowly, each one landing like a small, sharp stone. "Marcus is such a wonderful son. You raised him right, Richard. A real man steps up when family needs him. Proud to know you, Marcus. The Patterson family is so blessed to have a son like that." And there, in the comments, my brother had replied, "Family comes first, always. I'd do anything for you, Dad." I set the phone down. My hands weren't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was simply hollow. $80,000. 6 hours of surgery. Weeks of silent hospital visits in the dark. All of it credited to a man who hadn't contributed a single cent. And my brother, my charming, smiling brother, hadn't corrected a single word. I picked up the phone again and stared at the post until the words blurred. But not from tears. From disbelief. I didn't delete the Facebook app. I didn't call my mother to demand answers. I returned to work. There was a medical advisory council meeting that afternoon. Routine updates on surgical protocols and equipment acquisitions. As chairman, I led the discussion with the same steady voice I'd used for years. But something had shifted inside me. A hairline crack in the armor I'd built so carefully. After the meeting adjourned, Dr. Nathan Reed approached my chair. Nathan was one of our most respected cardiac surgeons. a member of the medical advisory board and, as I'd recently learned, a close colleague of the surgeon who'd operated on my father. Helena. He waited until the conference room had emptied. I heard about your father. Dr. Morrison at St. Luke's mentioned the case. He said the payment came through remarkably fast. It did. He also mentioned that the patient's daughter was the one who arranged everything. Nathan's eyes met mine directly. I didn't realize you were Richard Patterson's daughter until Morrison told me. Not many people do. You kept it quiet, even from the board. It wasn't relevant to hospital business. He studied me for a moment. Morrison was impressed. Said whoever made that call knew exactly how to navigate emergency medical financing, like they'd done it before. I gathered my papers, keeping my expression neutral. I'm glad the surgery was successful. Helena. He stopped me as I reached the door. If you ever need anything, a statement, a confirmation, anything at all, you know where to find me. I nodded, not fully understanding why he'd offered. Back in my office, I looked at the nameplate on my desk. Helena Patterson, chairman of the board. Maybe, I thought, the time for silence was finally coming to an end. The invitation arrived by text message 3 days later. Recovery celebration for Dad, Saturday, 3 p.m., parents' house. Everyone's coming. Don't be late. Marcus. I stared at the message for a long time. Everyone's coming. As if I were an afterthought. As if my presence were optional, rather than essential. But my father was alive because of me. I would be there. Saturday came, wrapped in the golden light of a Texas autumn. I drove to my parents' house with a homemade key lime pie on the passenger seat, my father's favorite, though I doubted anyone remembered that. The driveway was packed. Cars lined both sides of the street. Through the windows I could see balloons and movement, the shapes of family members I hadn't seen in years. I took a breath and walked to the front door. My mother opened it before I could knock. Oh, Helena. Her eyes swept over me once, a quick assessment that found me lacking. You made it. Put that pie thing in the kitchen. Try not to get in the way. It's Marcus's day. She turned and disappeared back into the crowd. I stood in the entryway, pie in hand, and looked around. The living room was transformed. Streamers hung from the ceiling. A banner stretched across the main wall, professionally printed. Welcome back, Richard. Thank God and thank Marcus. And there, in the center of the room, my brother held court. Marcus stood surrounded by relatives, his hand resting modestly on his chest as he recounted some story I couldn't hear. Whatever he was saying made Uncle Robert laugh and clap him on the shoulder. My father sat on the sofa of honor, thin but smiling. He watched Marcus with unmistakable pride. I set the pie in the kitchen and found a corner to stand in. Some things never changed. At 4 o'clock, my mother clinked a fork against her wine glass. Everyone, everyone, may I have your attention, please? The room gradually fell silent. 40 faces turned toward Diane Patterson, who stood beside my father's chair with the practiced poise of a woman who'd been commanding attention her entire life. Thank you all for coming to celebrate Richard's recovery. Her voice wavered with practiced emotion. 3 weeks ago, we almost lost him. But thanks to God's grace and our wonderful son Marcus, Richard is still with us today. Applause rippled through the room. Marcus handled everything during those terrible days, the hospital, the finances, all of it. He never left his father's side. She reached out to touch Marcus's arm. We are so blessed to have a son like him. More applause. Marcus ducked his head in what I'd come to recognize as his trademark humble gesture. And now, my mother continued, Marcus would like to say a few words. My brother stepped forward, one hand pressed to his heart. I don't know what to say. His voice was thick with emotion. When Dad collapsed, I knew I had to step up. That's what a son does. That's what family does. He looked at our father. I'd do it again 1,000 times, Dad. You're my hero. The applause was thunderous. Uncle Robert shouted, That's a real man right there! I watched from my corner, gripping my glass of water so tightly I thought it might shatter. Then my father spoke, his voice thin but clear. "Thank you, son. I don't know where I'd be without you." No one looked at me. No one even seemed to remember I was in the room. And then my mother turned. She turned directly toward my corner. "Oh," my mother's voice carried across the room. "I almost forgot. Helena is here too." 40 heads swiveled toward my corner. "Helena did contribute something to your father's care." Diane's smile was thin, performative. "We should thank her for that." I set down my water glass, waiting. Of course, whatever Helena gave came from that little dead-end job of hers. My mother laughed lightly. "But every penny counts, doesn't it? We should be grateful for crumbs." Scattered laughter from a few relatives. Marcus pressed his hand to his mouth, barely concealing a smirk. "What does Helena do again?" Cousin Patricia asked. "Something at a hospital." My mother waved dismissively. "Paperwork, I think. Or maybe reception? I honestly don't keep track." More quiet laughter, the pitying kind. I felt Aunt Grace's eyes on me from across the room. Her expression was pained. "Well," Uncle Robert said jovially, "at least she's got a job, right? That's something." The room buzzed with murmured agreement. Poor Helena. Always trying. Never quite measuring up. I stood perfectly still. Something inside me, something that had been held together by wire and hope for 30 years, finally snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet internal break, like a bone that had been bent too many times. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could say a word, the doorbell rang. My mother's face transformed instantly, irritation smoothing into gracious hostess. "That must be Dr. Reed." She rushed to the door. "He said he might stop by." She pulled the door open wide. And there, standing on the threshold in a casual blazer, was Dr. Nathan Reed, the man who knew exactly who I was. "Okay, pause here for a second. I need to ask you something. Put yourself in my shoes right now, standing in that room. 40 people looking at you with pity. Your mother just called your career a dead end. Your brother is smiling behind his hand. What would you do? Drop your answer in the comments. I really want to know. And if you're feeling this story, hit that like button. Now, let's continue." Dr. Nathan Reed stepped through the doorway with an easy smile. "Mrs. Patterson, thank you for the invitation." My mother practically glowed. "Dr. Reed, we're so honored you could make it. You must come meet Richard. He's been wanting to thank you properly." "Actually," Nathan said gently, "I should clarify. Dr. Morrison performed the surgery. I'm merely a colleague who wanted to check on the patient's recovery." "Oh, of course, of course." Diane waved away the distinction. "Please, come in. Can I get you something to drink?" She guided him into the living room, past the banner, past the crowd of relatives who parted respectfully for a man in a doctor's blazer. And then Nathan's gaze swept across the room and found me. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, perhaps, at finding me tucked into a corner like a forgotten piece of furniture. "Ah." My mother noticed the direction of his look. "That's my daughter, Helena. She works at a hospital, too. Nothing like your work, of course. Some administrative thing, filing paperwork." Nathan's brow furrowed slightly. "I'm sorry," he said slowly. "Did you say Helena works at a hospital?" "Yes, well, works." Diane made air quotes with her fingers. "Whatever entry-level position she managed to get. She's not on the same level as real medical professionals, obviously." Nathan stared at my mother as if she were speaking a foreign language. Then he looked at me again. Our eyes met across the crowded room. I gave a small shake of my head. A signal, don't. But something in Nathan's expression had already changed. He looked at my mother, then at Marcus, then back at me. And I could see it. The exact moment he decided he wasn't going to stay silent. I made my choice in the space between heartbeats. Slowly, deliberately, I reached into my purse and withdrew my hospital badge, the one I never wore around family, the one that bore my name in bold letters above a title they'd never bothered to learn. I clipped it to my blouse. Nathan saw it first. His face broke into a smile of recognition. "Well," he said, his voice carrying clearly across the suddenly quiet room. "I had no idea you were Richard Patterson's daughter, Chairman. That explains why the financial processing was so efficient." The word hung in the air like a struck bell. Chairman. My mother's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. "I'm sorry. What did you call her?" "Chairman Patterson." Nathan's tone was matter-of-fact, professional. "Helena and I serve together on St. Crestwood Memorial's Advisory Council. She chairs the entire hospital board." He turned to me with genuine warmth. "I have to say, the way you handled your father's case was remarkable. Dr. Morrison couldn't stop talking about it." The room had gone absolutely silent. Marcus stood frozen, his face draining of color. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound emerged. My mother's hand began to tremble. Red wine sloshed dangerously close to the rim of her glass. "Chairman," she repeated, the word barely a whisper. "Helena is a chairman?" "Of one of the largest hospitals in Houston, yes." Nathan seemed genuinely confused by the shock in the room. "Did you not know?" Uncle Robert leaned toward Aunt Grace. "Wait, St. Crestwood? That's the hospital that just built that new cancer wing. My buddy works construction, said it's $100 million facility." From his place on the sofa, my father stared at me. For the first time in decades, he truly saw me. The silence stretched like a held breath. There must be some mistake. My mother's voice had gone high and thin. "Helena doesn't, she can't possibly." She turned to Marcus, desperate. Marcus handled the finances. Marcus paid for everything. I reached for my phone. "Did he?" My voice was calm. "Because I have the receipt right here." I pulled up the email, the confirmation I'd saved, knowing somehow that this moment might come, and held the screen where everyone could see. $80,000. Wire transfer from my personal account. Dated January 15th. Sender, Helena M. Patterson. My mother crossed the room in 3 unsteady steps. She stared at the screen, her face gone white as paper. That's your account? That's your money?" "My money, my transfer, my decision." Dr. Reed stepped forward. "I can confirm this. St. Luke's financial office informed me that Ms. Patterson processed the full payment within 30 minutes of receiving the cost estimate. Dr. Morrison said he'd never seen anyone navigate emergency financing so quickly." The murmuring started then, a wave of whispered confusion rippling through the crowd. 80,000? She paid all of it? But Marcus said— Marcus finally found his voice. "Helena, why didn't you say something?" I turned to face my brother directly. "I did say something. I said I would handle it. You weren't listening." He flinched as if I'd struck him. "But the Facebook post," Cousin Patricia started. "The Facebook post," I said quietly, "thanked Marcus for something he never did. 247 people liked a lie. And my brother," I looked at Marcus again, "had every opportunity to correct it. He chose not to." The room seemed to contract around us, and still, no one knew what to say. Marcus stepped toward me, his hands raised in a gesture of surrender. "You don't understand. People just assumed. I didn't want to embarrass you by making a big deal about the truth?" I cut him off. "You had 247 comments, dozens of opportunities. You replied to those comments, Marcus. You accepted their praise." He had no response. My mother tried next. "Helena, sweetheart, we didn't know. How could we possibly have known? You never tell us anything. You never ask." The words came out steady without heat. 10 years of building my career, 10 years of promotions and accomplishments. Did you ever once ask me what I actually do? "Well, you're always so busy." Last Thanksgiving, I tried to tell you about my appointment as chairman. Do you remember what happened? My mother's face went blank. You interrupted me. You said Marcus's startup pitch was more important. You changed the subject before I could finish my sentence. The memory seemed to surface behind her eyes. Her mouth opened, then closed. I stayed quiet because I thought my work spoke for itself, I continued. But I was wrong. Silence doesn't speak. It just makes you invisible. Helena, my mother's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. You didn't realize because you didn't want to realize. From the sofa, my father spoke. His voice was weak but clear. Helena, come here. I crossed the room and stood before him. He reached up and took my hand, his grip fragile but warm. I'm sorry, baby girl. Tears glistened in his eyes. I stopped seeing you. Somewhere along the way, I just stopped. And that's on me. It was the first honest thing anyone in my family had said to me in years. 40 pairs of eyes waited for my next move. I could feel their tension, the collective held breath of a family bracing for an explosion. They expected rage. They expected accusations. Maybe they even expected me to walk out and never come back. Part of me wanted to, but that wasn't why I'd come. I didn't come here to humiliate anyone, I said finally. I came because my father just survived something that should have killed him. I wanted to see him healthy. I wanted to be part of his recovery. I looked at my mother, then at Marcus. But I also need you to understand something. I'm not asking you to celebrate my career. The people who matter in my professional world already know my value. I paused. What I need is for my family to stop erasing me. Marcus nodded quickly. I'll fix the Facebook post. Tonight. I'll make it right. And from now on, I continued, if either of you says something untrue about me in front of others, I will correct it. Immediately. I'm done protecting your comfort at the expense of my dignity. My mother was crying now, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Helena, I'm sorry. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm so sorry. I believe you, Mom. I reached out and touched her arm. And I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean we go back to the way things were. Things have to change. She nodded, unable to speak. I turned back to my father and took his hand again. I'm glad you're okay, Dad. That's what matters most. He squeezed my fingers. I love you, baby girl. I should have said it more. I should have seen you. You see me now, I said softly. That's a start. Quick question for you. What would you do if you were in my position right now? Would you walk away completely? Would you give them another chance? Or something else entirely? I made my choice, and I'll tell you how it turned out. But first, tell me your answer in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. The ending might surprise you. Marcus kept his word. That evening, while I drove back to Houston, my phone buzzed with a Facebook notification. I pulled over at a rest stop to read it. Marcus had written a new post, this time with no photo, just a simple black background and white text. I need to correct something important. The surgery that saved my father's life, all $80,000 of it, was paid for entirely by my sister, Helena Patterson. Not by me. Helena is the chairman of the board at St. Crestwood Memorial Hospital, one of the largest medical centers in Houston. She acted immediately when Dad collapsed, and she never asked for credit or recognition. I should have set the record straight from the beginning. I'm sorry for letting people believe something that wasn't true. Helena, you deserve so much better than the way we've treated you. Thank you for saving Dad's life. 312 comments within the first 2 hours. I scrolled through them slowly. Wait, Helena is a hospital chairman? That's incredible. Wow, so Marcus didn't pay anything? That's kind of messed up. Helena Patterson, I remember her from high school. Always knew she'd do something amazing. Props to Marcus for owning up to this. But Helena is the real hero here. Some comments were less forgiving. Why did Marcus let this lie go on for 3 weeks? Imagine your own family taking credit for saving your life. That's cold. I didn't reply to any of them. I just clicked the reaction button, a simple thumbs up, and put my phone away. The record had been corrected. The truth was finally public. I didn't need anything more than that. But something had shifted, something that couldn't be unshifted, and I wondered what would come next. The phone call came a week later. I was reviewing construction bids for the hospital's new East Wing when Aunt Grace's name flashed on my screen. Helena, honey, do you have a minute? I set down my pen. Of course. Is everything okay? Oh, everyone's fine. Your father's recovering well. She paused. I'm calling about your mother, actually. I leaned back in my chair. What about her? She's been having a rough time. Aunt Grace's voice was careful, measured. The women in her church group, they saw Marcus's post, and they've been, well, they haven't been kind. I felt an unexpected pang of something, not satisfaction, something more complicated. What are they saying? Margaret Johnson said it to her face at Bible study. Diane, I never would have thought you capable of treating your own daughter that way. Linda Peters apparently hasn't spoken to her since the party. A heavy sigh. Your mother's social standing has taken quite a hit. I closed my eyes. I didn't want that, Aunt Grace. I know you didn't, sweetheart. But you didn't create this situation. You just stopped covering it up. Still nothing. Her voice sharpened. Your mother spent decades building a narrative where you didn't matter. Consequences exist. She's learning that now. I was quiet for a long moment. Do you think she'll actually change? I think she has to. A pause. For what it's worth, she's been talking about you differently, actually listening when people ask about your work. That's something, isn't it? I suppose it is. Give it time, Helena. Some lessons take longer than others to sink in. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my office. I didn't want my mother humiliated, but I also couldn't shield her from the truth anymore. 2 weeks after the party, Marcus called. I was at home finally. A rare evening without board meetings or fundraising dinners. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Helena. His voice was different, smaller somehow. Do you have time to talk? Go ahead. Not on the phone. Can we meet? Coffee or something? I thought about saying no. I thought about the years of smug smiles and stolen credit and comfortable ignorance. But I said yes anyway. We met at a cafe near the hospital. Marcus looked tired in a way I'd never seen before. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his jaw, none of his usual polish. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he said after we'd ordered. About what happened, about the last 10 years. And? He stared into his coffee. I spent my whole life coasting, Helena. Mom and Dad made everything easy for me. And I just let them. I never questioned it. I never looked at what they were doing to you. No, you didn't. That day at the hospital, when you made that call, when you paid the money, I heard someone call you chairman. I thought I'd misheard. He laughed bitterly. I couldn't even conceive that my little sister had accomplished something that big. That says more about you than about me, Marcus. I know. He finally met my eyes. I'm shutting down the company, the AI consulting thing. It's a joke and we both know it. I raised an eyebrow. And then what? Then I get a real job. Start over. Stop relying on Mom and Dad to fund my fantasies. It was, perhaps, the first genuinely mature thing my brother had ever said. That's a start, I told him. He nodded slowly. It's a start. 3 months passed. Spring arrived in Houston, bringing warm rain and blooming azaleas. My father's recovery continued, slow but steady, exactly as Dr. Morrison had predicted. The hospital board approved our expansion plans. Life moved forward. And then my mother called with an invitation. Sunday dinner, she said, her voice almost shy. Just family. I'm making honey-glazed ribs. Your father's been asking for them. I recognized the gesture for what it was. Honey glazed ribs had always been my favorite, not my father's. That Sunday, I drove to Austin with a bottle of wine and carefully managed expectations. My mother met me at the door. She looked older than I remembered, or maybe I was just seeing her clearly for the first time. Helena. She pulled me into a hug. I'm so glad you came. The house smelled like slow-cooked meat and caramelized sugar. My father sat in his usual armchair, thinner than before but with color back in his cheeks. The dinner was quiet, peaceful even. And then, midway through the meal, my mother set down her fork. I've been wanting to ask you something, Helena, about your work. I looked up, surprised. What about it? The chairman position. What does that actually involve? I mean, she seemed to struggle with the words. I'd like to understand, if you want to tell me. Marcus caught my eye from across the table. He gave a small nod of encouragement. It's a lot of responsibility, I said slowly. Budget oversight, strategic planning, advocating for patients who can't advocate for themselves. My mother listened, actually listened. And when I finished, my father reached over and squeezed my hand under the table. I'm proud of you, baby girl, he said quietly. I should have said it years ago. I smiled. Better late than never. After dessert, I asked my mother to step outside with me. We stood on the back porch, looking out at the garden where my father used to grow tomatoes before his heart started failing. The evening air was cool and smelled like jasmine. Mom, I said carefully, I need to say something. She turned to face me, hands clasped in front of her, waiting. I forgive you for everything. I mean that. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. Helena, let me finish. I kept my voice gentle but firm. I forgive you, but I also need you to understand that things can't go back to how they were. She nodded, not speaking. If you or Marcus ever say something untrue about me, to relatives, to friends, to anyone, I'm going to correct it. Right there, right then. No more silence from me. No more protecting anyone's pride at my expense. That's fair. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing it because I need to protect myself. I've spent 30 years making myself small so this family could be comfortable. That's over now. My mother reached out and took my hands. You're right, she said. You're right about all of it. I don't deserve your forgiveness, Helena, but I'm grateful for it. You're my mother. I love you. I squeezed her fingers. But I've learned that I have to love myself too. Those things don't have to be in conflict. She pulled me into an embrace, tighter than any hug she'd given me since I was a child. I'm sorry, baby, she whispered into my hair. I'm so sorry. I know, Mom. We stood there for a long time, watching the stars emerge over my father's garden. Something old was ending. Something new was beginning. Later that night, I sat in my car outside my parents' house, not yet ready to drive away. The dashboard clock glowed green in the darkness. Through the living room window, I could see my father settling into his armchair, my mother bringing him a cup of tea. Normal moments, family moments, moments I'd almost stopped believing could include me. I looked at my hospital badge, still clipped to my purse. Helena Patterson, chairman of the board. 10 years to earn those words. 10 years of late nights and hard decisions, and proving myself to everyone, except the people who should have believed in me from the start. I'd spent so long thinking that my work spoke for itself. That if I just achieved enough, accomplished enough, succeeded loudly enough, my family would eventually have to see me. I was wrong. Some people don't see you until you force them to look. I started the car and pulled away from the curb, watching my parents' house grow smaller in the rearview mirror. I didn't regret paying for my father's surgery, I never would. But I also didn't regret standing in that crowded living room and refusing to be invisible anymore. Silence can be armor, but it can also be a cage. I'd worn mine for 30 years. It was time to take it off. The Houston skyline glittered ahead of me, bright with possibility. I didn't know exactly what the future held for me and my family. The wounds were deep, and healing would take time. But for the first time in my life, I knew they saw me. And from now on, I would never let anyone make me invisible again. Not even the people I loved, especially not them. That's my story. The story of how I stopped being invisible and started being heard. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been overlooked by the people who should have seen you the most? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. If this story meant something to you, subscribe and check the description for more stories like this. Until next time, remember, your silence is powerful, but so is your truth.